Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're unpacking one of the most exciting, honestly monumental shifts happening in tech right now. We're moving away from AI that just answers our questions, and we're entering this whole new era of AI that actually gets things done. We're talking about the massive evolutionary leap from reactive, generative AI to proactive agentic AI. If you've been watching the rise of large language models and wondering, what happens when AI stops just talking and starts doing, well, you're in the exact right place.
To give our explainer today a really rock-solid foundation, we're grounding this discussion directly in the official Cisco AI Technical Practitioner Certification Blueprint. Specifically, that's the AITECH 810110. Now, notice the massive emphasis on what we're talking about today. Domain 6.0, which covers Agentic AI, makes up a whopping 20% of the entire exam. That means understanding this shift, it's not just theoretical anymore. It's an absolutely critical, high-value skill that's going to make or break your success as a modern IT and AI practitioner.
All right, here's our agenda, mapped perfectly to those Cisco exam objectives. We've got 1. Generative versus agentic AI. 2. Agent design and autonomy. 3. Orchestration and the MC framework. 4. Human-in-the-loop strategies. And 5. Data mapping.
Okay, Section 1, Generative versus Agentic AI. Let's move to this and see how it builds. Here's the fundamental question driving this entire paradigm shift. What happens when AI actually acts? Up until recently, we've all been completely fascinated by standard generative AI. But think about its biggest limitation for a second. It's incredibly passive. It relies entirely on these stateless single-turn prompts just sitting there waiting for human intervention. I mean, sure, it can write a beautiful essay, or summarize a report, or generate code, but only after you specifically ask it to. So what changes when it gains agency? When it can look at a complex problem and initiate action entirely on its own.
And this brilliantly illustrates that difference. Think of generative AI as the consultant. It's highly intelligent, incredibly knowledgeable, but very reactive. It waits patiently for your specific prompts to answer your questions. You ask a consultant for a marketing strategy, they hand you a PDF, and bam, their job is done. Now look at the other side. Agentic AI, that is the employee. It's proactive. You don't just give it a prompt, you give it a goal. If you give an employee the goal of launching a marketing campaign, they go off, they create a step-by-step plan, open the ad accounts, write the copy, and actually execute the workflows across multiple systems to achieve that goal. It's literally the profound difference between asking for a recipe and having a master chef actually cook the meal for you.
All right, let's dive into this next part, Section 2, Agent Design and Autonomy. So the crucial point here is clearly defining what an autonomous capability actually is in the context of agent design. Basically, it's the ability of an AI system to proactively design a plan and execute tasks toward a goal rather than just generating a text response. It completely shifts the burden of figuring out the how from us, the human users, to the AI itself. You just define the what, and the AI autonomously breaks down that big overarching objective into smaller, manageable, actionable tasks.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the process it uses. To be autonomous, an agent runs through a continuous, sequential loop. First, it has to perceive, gathering context, reading the environment, and analyzing data. Second, it has to plan, breaking that goal into a logical sequence of steps. Third, it executes those steps. And this might mean calling an external API, running a script, or, querying a database. And finally, it has to evaluate. Did the execution actually work? Did it get the result we wanted? If it hit an error, it just loops right back around, adjusts the plan, and tries again. This four-step loop is absolutely the heartbeat of agentic AI.
Moving right along, Section 3, Orchestration and the MCP Framework. Let's get into this more.
Because we aren't just talking about a single AI working alone in a silo anymore. Imagine a whole team of specialized AI agents, a swarm, collaborating, communicating, and tackling massive problems together. To make a multi-agent swarm function without turning into total chaos, we rely on the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Let's break down these primitives. First, we have context, which basically acts as the shared memory for the swarm. It ensures data persists across different agents, so if Agent A finds a crucial piece of data, context makes sure Agent B knows about it instantly. Next, tools provide the execution abilities. These are the APIs and connectors that let agents actually affect the real world. Finally, prompts. Now, in MCP, prompts aren't just human inputs anymore. They're orchestration commands. They're programmatic instructions that guide how models interact, synthesize findings, and hand off tasks to each other.
Okay, Section 4, Human-in-the-Loop Strategies.
Now, let's take a deep breath and become very deliberate for a second,
Because this is arguably the most critical part of deploying agentic AI in the real world: safety, compliance, and governance. Trust, but verify. Let me ask you directly, would you let an AI run your company's production database or manage your core network infrastructure entirely without supervision? Yeah, no way. As AI gains agency and the ability to execute real-world tasks, the risk profile goes way, way up. We cannot just let autonomous systems run completely wild. We have to implement a strategic pivot toward governance to make absolutely sure these agents are acting in our best interests.
And that is precisely where human-in-the-loop, or HITL strategies come into play, and why they're such a mandatory part of the Cisco blueprint. Think of HITL as the essential human manager component that oversees the AI employee. You absolutely need approval gates. This is for when the AI plans a high-stakes action, like, say, changing a firewall rule or sending a mass email, but it pauses to ask a human to click approve before it actually pulls the trigger. You also need active monitoring, providing dashboards where human operators can watch the AI's logic, its reasoning steps, and its token usage in real time. And, crucially, you need manual overrides. This is essentially a big red button to halt the AI's execution instantly if it starts hallucinating or drifting off course. HITL is what keeps autonomous agents secure, aligned with your business goals, and ultimately accountable to us.
Almost there. Section 5, Data Transformation and Mapping.
So, if the MCP framework we talked about is the brain of the AI, this data flow represents the hands. It's how the AI agent physically interacts with and molds the information it needs to do its job. For an autonomous agent to be genuinely useful, it has to process data in this specific linear path. Step 1 is to ingest data. The agent pulls in raw information from a source. This could be an API endpoint, a PDF, or just direct user input. Step 2 is to map data. It takes that messy, unstructured raw data and maps it to a highly structured schema that the AI-specific tools can actually understand and work with. And finally, step 3 is to transform data. The agent manipulates or converts that mapped data into the exact format required for the final task. That might be a JSON payload for an API call or a nicely formatted report. Mastering this flow is completely essential, because if an agent can't map and transform data correctly, it can't execute its plan no matter how smart its reasoning engine is.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. Are your networks, and honestly your teams, ready for autonomous employees? We are literally watching the most profound shift in technology since the dawn of the internet itself. It's the evolution from a passive, generative AI that just talks to an active, agentic AI that autonomously does. Understanding this evolution is exactly why Domain 6 of the Cisco AI Tech Blueprint is so critical for your career. I really hope this explainer has given you the clarity and the visual structure you need to master these foundational concepts. Thanks for learning with me today, and definitely keep exploring.